Before you use tea tree oil for your acne, you need to watch this video because a lot of people are using it wrong and it even ends up worsening their acne. In the next minutes, I will show you how to use tea tree oil for acne correctly, how to prepare and how to dilute it, and also when it is worth using it because it is only suitable for certain forms of acne. So it's not effective for all of them and it only works in some very specific situations. Hello and welcome to Acne from A to Z. I'm a pharmacist and on this channel I teach you how to get rid of your acne by fighting its root cause. So if this is something you are interested in, make sure to subscribe and also follow me on TikTok and on Instagram where I post daily videos and tips about acne. Here's the timeline we are going to follow in this video. So for the beginning, we will look at the situations when tea tree oil works versus the ones when it doesn't work. Going on, I will also show you how you should prepare it correctly and how exactly you should apply it on your face for your acne. And we will also compare the classic tea tree oil recipe versus the products based on this ingredient. And last but not least, I will also give you some tips about how you should use it correctly so that you get the best results with it. So if you are ready, let's get into it. There are three main situations when you can use tea tree oil for your acne simply because it targets the root cause of those forms of acne. So it basically fixes them by fighting their root trigger. Now, the first of these forms of acne is acne caused by skin bacteria. So this is what I call bacterial acne. And this type of acne is actually caused by a proliferation of skin bacteria at the level of your face. Now, normally each of us have a certain amount of bacteria at the level of our skin. I'm talking about a bacteria called P. acnes that is normal. However, in some people, this bacteria starts to multiply out of control and this is when it starts to produce acne. And by far the most common reason why this happens is because of sebum. And this is actually why people who have an increased production of sebum and they have a very oily skin type are more likely to get bacterial acne. Keep in mind that bacterial acne is not exactly the same as oily skin acne. They have a lot of common ground and a lot of times they can overlap, but they are not always exactly the same. So if you want to find out more about the differences between them and also about the differences of the other forms of acne, I actually have a very detailed video that talks about the 7 most important forms of acne. I'm gonna link it below, make sure to check it out as well. But basically, if your acne is caused by skin bacteria, tea tree oil works simply because it is a very strong antibacterial and consequently it fixes the root cause of your acne, which is the proliferation of your skin bacteria. In the exact same way, tea tree oil is also a really good antifungal, which means that it is also very suitable for acne caused by skin fungus, so by malassezia. And it is probably the most important home remedy that works if you are breaking out because of skin fungus. I actually recommend tea tree oil to a lot of people who tell me they have fungal acne and they don't necessarily want to use the standard treatments, which are generally antifungal creams. Well, in this case, tea tree oil is probably the best natural remedy simply because it has a very strong antifungal effect. And the last situation when I could recommend tea tree oil is if you are breaking out because of your oily skin. So if you remember, I previously told you about the differences between bacterial acne and oily skin acne, and a lot of times they overlap. Now, oily skin acne is when you are specifically breaking out because of an increased production of sebum on your face. And if this is your case, you will probably struggle with acne all your life simply because you have a skin type that is very prone to get acne because of that increased production of sebum. Now, the reason why I only recommend tea tree oil with precaution in this case if you have oily skin acne is because the main cause of your acne is the increased production of sebum. And tea tree oil doesn't necessarily have a specific effect on that. Like I said, it is a strong antibacterial and antifungal, but it doesn't necessarily decrease your sebum production, which is the main trigger of your acne if you have oily skin acne. Instead, how tea tree oil could be helping you in this case is by keeping your skin bacteria and skin fungus under control. Because since you have an increased production of sebum, they are at risk to get out of control. And this is how tea tree oil can help you in this case. But it will not have such a good effect on oily skin acne as it does on bacterial or fungal acne. So keep this in mind. Instead, for oily skin acne, I would say that there are some much better remedies and solutions that have a much better effect. And I actually have a very detailed video about the signs of oily skin acne and how you should keep it under control. I'm gonna link that below as well. Make sure to check it out if you are interested. But basically, these are the 3 situations when it really makes sense using tea tree oil for acne because it is going to help. If you are breaking out because of skin bacteria, because of skin fungus, and sometimes even because of oily skin, but this isn't necessarily a first-line solution in this case. On the other hand, there are many other situations when I wouldn't necessarily recommend using tea tree oil simply because it doesn't have any effect on your acne. And I'm mostly talking about the situations when you are breaking out because of internal issues like hormonal imbalances, gut problems, even if you are breaking out as a side reaction to a certain medicine. In all of these cases, using tea tree oil is not going to help simply because your acne has a specific cause that is inside, and tea tree oil only has a local effect, which isn't necessarily going to help you in this situation. This is why I always say that it's super important to find out the root cause of your acne and to discover what form of acne you have, because the best way to get rid of your acne is to fight its root cause. And if your acne is caused by skin bacteria and you treat it with remedies that are designed to balance your hormones, so with remedies that would be suitable for hormonal acne, I can guarantee that you will not see an improvement and you will not get rid of your acne. This is why on this channel I always insist on fighting your acne's root cause and fixing it depending on what that is. So if you guys need any help with this, remember about my course, the Anti-Acne Formula, that does exactly this. Assuming you have one of those forms of acne that is suitable for tea tree oil, how exactly do you use it? How exactly do you apply it? And most importantly, how should you prepare it? Because like I always say, you should definitely not use tea tree oil as it is. I see people making this mistake so many times, almost every day, and a lot of them end up burning their skin, damaging their skin barrier, or even irritating their skin simply because you should never apply tea tree oil as it is. It is an essential oil, a very strong oil, and you should always use it diluted. Now, here's exactly how to do this. I have tried several dilutions, but the rule I have, and the general rule I have seen many specialists recommending, is that for every drop of tea tree oil, you need something like 12 drops of a carrier oil. You can sometimes add more, but you should never add less. Now, this carrier oil is designed to make tea tree oil a lot better tolerated by your skin. So it basically reduces the risk of irritation and burning caused by that tea tree oil. This is why it's always very important to dilute it with a carrier oil. And I know that a lot of people do not want to prepare that solution every single day they apply tea tree oil, right? So you want to remember that for every drop of tea tree oil, you are going to add 12 drops of a carrier oil. And I know many of you want to prepare that solution beforehand and maybe use it a lot of times. So generally, if you are going to use 10 drops of tea tree oil, you can use 120 drops of a carrier oil or above. You can definitely add more, but you should never add less, like I said. And you can use these numbers no matter how much tea tree oil you want to use. So for example, if you want to use 20 drops of tea tree oil, you also want to add 240 drops of a carrier oil. This definitely depends on you. I'm just giving you an example. But this is the rule that I want you to follow. For every drop of tea tree oil, you are going to use 12 drops of a carrier oil. And a lot of people ask me about the carrier oil they can use. I would say that it's pretty much any oil that is well tolerated by the skin, but the ones that I use are mostly almond oil, Argan oil is also very good, jojoba oil, even coconut oil, even though I know some people tell me that it is way too thick and it is pore clogging, it can clog their pores. I would say that you can use and that you should use coconut oil mostly if you have a drier skin type. If you are on the oilier side, you should use an oil that is more lightweight, something like jojoba oil, almond oil, or even argan oil. They all pretty much fit into this category. So probably coconut oil should be better for people who are on the drier skin type simply because it is thicker. At the same time, if you do not have access to any of this, you can even use the olive oil that pretty much everyone has in their homes, at least in Europe. I haven't tried to prepare the solution with olive oil, but on paper it should use. So as a last resort, you can also use olive oil. And you just want to mix those up, and you can definitely store that into a small bottle and use it several times. It should last quite a lot, especially if you use the example that I gave you, something like 10 drops of tea tree oil and 120 drops of a carrier oil. It should definitely last you a lot of time. Now let's talk a little bit about its application. So how exactly you should apply tea tree oil, because I get this question so often and I actually try to study it a bit and see what people say. Based on my experience, I would recommend applying this solution something like 1 to 4 times a week, depending on how well your skin tolerates it. So in general, if you have an oilier skin type, you have an increased production of sebum that protects your skin from getting irritated, you can definitely go on the larger spectrum. So you can use this tea tree oil more often, I would say 4 times a week. But if you feel like your skin can tolerate it, you can definitely use it even more often. If you are on the drier side, you definitely want to use it less. So I would not recommend 4 times a week. But again, it really depends on your skin's response to this solution. My advice is to use it only as a spot treatment, not to apply it all over your face, only on the areas where you have pimples, because it is much safer in this way and the risk of irritation is a lot lower. I have seen some people recommending tea tree oil once or twice a day. I don't necessarily agree, because I feel like a lot of people simply ignore the skin barrier damage that tea tree oil can cause, even if it is diluted. So in my opinion, it is better to stay on the safe side and use it less, simply because we want to keep your skin barrier healthy and intact. But like I said, if you feel like you can use it more often, you can definitely do that. Just make sure to use a moisturizer afterwards, whether you go for one that is more lightweight, which is more suitable for an oily skin type, or you can also go for one that is thicker, especially if your skin is on the drier spectrum. But if you feel like tea tree oil can irritate your skin, if it causes even the slightest discomfort, make sure to use a moisturizer afterwards, because this can really save you. Now, if you want to use tea tree oil for your acne, should you go for a ready-made product, or instead should you prepare this recipe that I just gave you as an example? A lot of people ask me this, and this is a question that I absolutely want to answer in this video. So you want to keep in mind that products that are based on tea tree oil generally have a weaker effect than diluted tea tree oil, than the recipe that I gave you, which uses pure tea tree oil, and which I recommend if you are struggling with bacterial or fungal acne and if you want to get rid of it, so you want to treat it. I strongly recommend going for the original recipe that uses pure tea tree oil instead of products based on tea tree oil extract or anything like this, simply because they tend to be on the weaker side. Yes, there are situations when those kind of products could keep your acne under control, and if this is your case, it's perfect. But again, if you have a classic bacterial or fungal acne, a lot of times it will not go away with this kind of product. Instead, you will have to use the diluted tea tree oil, the diluted pure tea tree oil from the initial recipe. Instead, there are mostly 2 main situations when I actually recommend those products that are based on tea tree oil. 2 situations in which they work pretty well, and I actually consider them a much better choice compared to the original recipe. The first situation is if your face doesn't really tolerate that tea tree oil, that pure tea tree oil extract diluted with a carrier oil. Like I said, for some people it can be too strong, too harsh, especially if your skin is very sensitive. And in this case, even if you apply a moisturizer, that irritation and that burning may be still there. So in order to avoid breaking your skin barrier, I would actually recommend using a product based on tea tree oil only instead of using the pure tea tree oil, because the product a lot of times it is weaker, so consequently it is not as harsh and as strong. At the same time, the second situation when I would actually recommend using this kind of products is for maintenance. And what I mean by this is that let's assume you are using the original tea tree oil diluted with a carrier oil, and it actually works really well for your acne. It improves your breakouts a lot. You would obviously not keep using this recipe for the rest of your life if you are not breaking out anymore, right? So in this case, I actually recommend to a lot of people to use products based on tea tree oil for maintenance, because like I said, they are weaker, but since they are based on tea tree oil, they also have an effect, right? And since you stop breaking out, since you do not have active pimples any longer, this kind of product should be able to keep your acne under control. Now, I want to give you some tips about how exactly you should use tea tree oil correctly, additionally to the ones I have already mentioned, because I've seen this is a pretty misunderstood subject, and a lot of people ask me to make videos about how exactly they should apply tea tree oil, how exactly they should use it if they are breaking out. And like I said, you do not want to apply it every single day. I personally would not do that. I would not recommend that. In my opinion, the best routine is to use it 1 to 4 times a week, depending on your skin tolerance. If your skin is on the oilier side, you can definitely go for 4 times or even more if you feel like there is tolerance, that your skin tolerates it, so it doesn't really irritate your skin, break your skin barrier or anything like this. And like I said, always make sure to use it as a spot treatment, so you should not apply it all over your face, because even if it is diluted, it is still too strong, and there's no point applying it on those areas where you do not have pimples. Also remember to use a moisturizer afterwards. I see a lot of people who simply skip this step or they're not aware of it. This is super important in order to prevent your skin barrier damage, because your skin barrier can be broken really easily if you are using tea tree oil, especially the original recipe, since it is super strong. So you definitely want to avoid that, and a moisturizer could surely prevent this. And last but not least, my advice is not to use tea tree oil in the same day when you are applying a retinol or when you are exfoliating. Again, if you feel like your skin has a lot of tolerance, you can use them in the same day, but I would recommend using one in the morning and the other one in the evening, so that you can prevent that skin barrier damage that I was talking about. But ideally, most people will not have this tolerance. So for most people, it's not necessarily indicated to use tea tree oil in the same day when you use a retinol or an exfoliant. I really hope this video helped you clarify how exactly you should use tea tree oil for acne, when you should use it, why it works, and why it doesn't work in your situation. So if you have any other questions or any other things that you need to know about it, let me know in the comments below. And also let me know if you want me to make a video about any other home remedy for acne, in which situations it works and which it doesn't, and obviously how exactly you should use it. So I'm waiting for your feedback in the comments, and until next time, I wish you to stay acne free.